First of all, mate, thank you for coming on and having a chat with me, mate. Really appreciate you giving me some of your time.
No worries. Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So I'll just give you a bit of a rundown of what I do, mate. I've got a Facebook page and an Instagram page. I try to do local footy stuff over here, go to games, do some videos, pictures of the seniors and juniors, do reports, all that sort of stuff. Also share all their news and events that they've got going on, so it gets the clubs out there. Hopefully people see it and attend all these sort of things, getting the game, trying to grow the game here in Perth. But I also share all the club news from the NRL as well, so
nice.
people are up to date with all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, busy man, mate. It sounds like it.
Oh, mate, I've got 10 kids in the household, mate, so I'm extremely busy.
This is probably why you do it, then you get away from it, eh?
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
No, like I said, mate, I really appreciate you giving me your time. I know you're, doing coaching stuff with the West Tigers these days, mate. So yeah.
All good, man. No worries.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Jumping into your career, mate, you started '96 with the Western Suburbs Magpies. You go through with the merger to the Tigers. Then you 06 or end of 06, start of 07, you go over to England and play for Huddersfield. And then come back for a bit of a song back at the Tigers, mate. You also get to represent the city in the City Country Origin games. Do you sort of, with your career, mate, do you sort of, anything you take away from your career that's made you into the person or the man that you are today?
Oh, look, there's plenty I take out, definitely. I think as a junior or any kid playing rugby league, you're this raw person, this raw man, learning to you think you're tough until you really run on the field, and you run into some old heads and they sort you out pretty quickly. So mate, I take a lot out. I take discipline. I take my will to want to succeed, my never give up attitude, and that comes down to learning off a lot of people. I was lucky enough to start my career under Tommy Rodonicus, who we all know he had the never die attitude, and that's something he definitely passed, I think, on to me, because with the Magpies we had unfortunately a few lean years, but there's one thing that he instilled in every player that put on the jersey was never to give up. So then you move on to my later years with under Sheensy, who, if anyone knows rugby league and anyone wants to learn rugby league, Tim Sheens is the man to go and talk to and learn from. And he taught me a lot about being a professional and not only playing rugby league, but learning about the game, learn what you do, learning the sport that you play, and it gives you a bit more respect, I think, about in regards to when you do play, because there's so much history behind it, that you play for not only the jersey, but your fans and everyone that supported the clubs. I was lucky enough to play for two clubs, two foundation clubs, Balmain and West Magpies, and we became West Tigers, and so much history. So you learn about the game, and that's as a person, I think I learn to respect what I do and make sure that I understand and learn about the past.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. That's awesome explanation of what you're taking away from rugby, because it's given you you guys, not just you guys, but the fans, a lot to have in their lives. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, fans are so important. People. Look, everyone does understand it, but fans and supporters and sponsors, they put so much time and effort to come to a game, and it's their hard-earned money that they spend on the club, and to not only entertain themselves, but to make sure that the club is successful. So yeah, they're very important to every club or any sport and organisation in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Couldn't agree more. Go back to '96, mate. Your debut game against Penrith. What do you remember about it?
Oh yeah, that was a pretty exciting night. Yeah, definitely the fights. I think everyone talks to me about the fights that we had. We had about three all-in brawls and a few send-offs. So yeah, it was a good way to get into rugby league, especially being a front row. I think it was just a good way for me to stamp my authority and really tell people that what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be a professional rugby league player. And there was no better initiation, I guess, into the NRL life. So yeah, just I think it was about 9-minute mark. We got into a fight. We got into a bit of a stink, and I thought, well, here we go. So you do what you do in the field, and we get into it. And after that, I guess it was. I didn't think of it at the time, but I think it was a bit of a make or break for me because I took up the next couple of hit ups, and they came after me, and I think they bashed me on one of them. But again, that helped me stamp my authority in rugby league, and Tommy was so proud of me, and he let me know that after the game, and I guess that was just the start of my career. And mate, it's just, I think it was 12,000 people there, but I honestly think I felt like there was like 40,000 people because I remember running out, and I was lucky enough because it was at my own local Campbelltown area, and I grew up playing for the Minto Cobras, who were my local club, and here I am playing for my local NRL team, West Magpies, in front of my friends, closest friends, teammates, and local juniors. So it was such a proud moment, proud night. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool. What do you remember about the build up to the game? Like, telling your family and all that sort of stuff that you're going to debut.
But to be honest, I don't really remember telling much. My family. The thing that stands out is Kenny McGuinness, who was a good friend of mine at the time. He said, "Look, I think he was playing first grade. He'd been playing for a year or so, and he said, "Look, I think Tommy's going to pick you this week." And this was on I think it was a Sunday, or I can't remember, it was Sunday or Monday maybe. And anyway, I did get the call for Tommy. Someone said, "Go, you need to go and see Tommy in his office." And this was Monday or Tuesday, and we're playing Friday night. So, and I tell this story to the kids because you wouldn't do this these days. There's no way the sports scientists will let you do this. Anyway, when Tommy's having the yarn to me, and I don't really remember the conversation, to be honest, because it was that long ago, and I was probably just, so excited and nervous that I'm actually going to play. And he said, "Mate, I'm thinking of playing you this week and all this." And then he goes, "Look, I just need to know that you're fit enough to play." And he goes, "I want you here on Wednesday. You're gonna do a test for me." And I get there on the Wednesday. Mind you, we're playing Friday night. And he goes, "All right, you got 2.5 Ks to do the quickest time." And I can't remember the time he gave me. It was some stupid time at the ridiculous time. And anyway, here I am busting my ass, 2.5 Ks, just absolutely going around this. I remember Campbelltown Stadium, just running around this field, around 4 times, whatever it was. And I made the time, and my ass was hanging out, my legs were shaking. I was just so nervous and sick. I think I spewed at the time. I can't remember. And all he said was, see you Friday, and that was it. And that was 2 days before the game that he flogged me to play Friday night. So, like I said, I don't think too many sports scientists or trainers these days will allow their players to run 2.5 K as a sprint 2 days before a game. So that's basically what sticks in my mind. Yeah, to tell my friends and family, I really don't remember telling them. I'm pretty sure I would have told my dad and my closest friends about it. But I think that the whole week was just a bit of a blur for me because I was so excited. You as a teenager and as a young kid, you dream of this moment, and suddenly you're getting that tap on the shoulder, and you're about to live your dream. So it's a pretty surreal moment.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I couldn't imagine, making my debut, mate. It would have been spectacular. And yourself, like, I was reading up that you lost your mum when you were young as well.
Yep.
I personally went through the same thing. I lost my mum when I was just about to turn 10.
Yep.
How was, like, when you made your debut, was that always in the back of your mind to sort of, she's watching down on you, make her proud sort of thing?
Yeah, of course. I think so. I think, some tough years. I had some tough years prior to that because of that, at that time, I probably didn't think of it, being because of the loss of my mum, but I look back as an adult and understand, how teenagers work and things like that. So I probably did a few things that I should have done, and I think it was due to that because I didn't have that motherly sort of love at the time. And I was 13 when I lost my mum, so I was pretty young still. And but yeah, definitely when I made my debut, I think it was just with my father as well, the sacrifices that he made, being a single dad and getting me through, and helped me as much as he can to train and go to the footy while he was trying to work and support myself and my 2 sisters. And definitely, mate, all those memories, all those thoughts come through your head. You think of your family, you think of your friends, you think of your clubs, you think of everyone that sort of somewhere along the line has helped you to get there, and you just suck it all in, and you yeah, again, you just do your best to not get too emotional, because you got to remember you got a game to play and you're about to get bashed by, I'm 19 years old. I'm about to get bashed by grown men. So the best part about it, the fights were great because they were legal on the field, so it's great. I didn't get in trouble, so there's no problem.
Yeah, back in the good old days, mate.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, not just in footy but life in general, mate, did you have someone that you idolised or a specific idol? And what about them? Why were they your idol?
Yeah, no, I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't really have anyone that I idolised. I had a really good bunch of mates. I grew up with the McGuinness boys, and once my mum passed, their mum took me in and took me as one of their own, one of her own, and because of that, I think I owe a lot to them, because it kept me grounded. To be honest, yeah, I still remember Kenny. Kenny was almost the father figure for a while there, even though he was only 17, 18 or 16, 17, 18 at the time. He was still a bit of a father figure to us, or big brother, to say, probably say in better words. He kept us grounded, and I still remember having to clean this bloody shed all the time with BMX bikes. I don't know how it got so dirty every weekend, but we seemed to clean this bloody bike every weekend, this shed every weekend. So, but yeah, to look up at idols, probably no, I didn't have anyone. Like obviously you had your usual sports stars. I looked up to Paul Harrigan and Steve Roaches, and people and the guys that played in my position. I used to love the Mark Carroll and Paul Harrigan battles, and and then when Shane Webb came along, they're the guys that are not idolised, but they're the guys that I thought, this is, if I want to be where they are, this is the way I need to be as well. So that's probably the closest I got to sort of any idols. But it's just probably my closest friends, and I'm still great friends with them to this day.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, that's beautiful, mate. Going through 99, 2000 with the merger with the West Tigers, mate. How did you personally find that? I've talked to Joel Kane and Matt Fuller, who were one was at Western Suburbs with you, and then Joel Kane was at the Tigers. They were talking about a bit of the uncertainty at the time. They didn't know what was going to happen with their contracts and all that sort of stuff. How did you find that sort of period as well?
Yeah, it did, mate. The same. Pretty tough. Pretty, I guess nervous, because both clubs, and especially us, the Magpies, we came last. I think we won 2 games that year, or 3 games. I can't remember exactly, but it wasn't many games, and we still hold the record for most points scored against. So it wasn't exactly a season you'd want to talk about. So when the merger started, when they started talking about mergers and contracts and what players they're going to take along and how many players were going to come from each side and all that sort of stuff. There was a bit, there was some nerves there, and I was worried that, have I done enough to get a place? Are they interested? Because there wasn't much said to us as players. They weren't really, right to the end of the year. To be honest, I don't even recall anyone coming up to me saying, "Mate, you'll be fine. We're looking at select you." I think it was basically, they did the deal in August, I think, something like that. In terms of they confirmed the merger, and then we only had 3 or 4 games left when that happened, and we did the final game at Campbelltown, and I think I had a trip back at we had organised a tour in England for the last flight of the Magpie. We called it for all the players as a last thing, and so I still wasn't really sure what I was going to do, and I think it might have been a week before that I left to go to England. That's when I got the call saying, "Look, we're interested in you staying, and we have to renegotiate a contract." So, and that's when I went, met Wayne Pearce at Leichhardt, and he showed me around. We had a discussion. Then the rest is history. I signed on for 3 years with the West Tigers. So but definitely nerves and worry. It was a stressful time for everyone, especially players. So
it would have been, mate. Yeah, like I said, those 2 guys were mentioned the same thing. They were stressing about. They didn't know what was going to happen. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So you go into the West Tigers, mate. You end up playing 166 games before you go to Huddersfield, which includes the 05 grand final.
Yep.
How was that experience, mate? Like just the week leading into the grand final, and then you obviously got guys winning, and then that week after.
Yeah, well, if I sounded excited about my debut, times it by about 100, and that's probably the best way I can explain it. I didn't know what to really expect, to be honest, because we'd been getting a bit of a roll on going into the grand final. So if I could probably, if you can mix it all up in one sort of thing, nerves, excitement, relief, satisfaction. There were so many emotions because one, I couldn't believe I was actually going to play in a grand final, but then I was worried I didn't want to get too excited because I didn't want all the excitement to stop me from playing the game, if that makes sense. But then I wanted to also enjoy it as well. I didn't want to just, finish the week and go, oh shit, what happened to that week? Because I know Sheensy and Roy Simmons will tell, obviously they've been part of grand finals and they both either coached or played in. And I remember Royce saying, you got to enjoy the moment because it's a fantastic week and it might be the only one that you ever play in. And I was like, well, that's what was going through my mind. I thought, well, it's taken me 10 years to actually get here. So let me try to suck it all in. So, lucky for me, I was probably a little bit older too at the time. So I think if you were a younger kid, it would have just been just a mad rush and thinking this was normal, like some of the other boys, like your Fultons and your Hyantons and your Farrers, who at the time only played 1 year or 2 years worth of first grade, whereas I'd been there for 10 years trying to do this. And so the week was exciting. It was great. We started off with an open training session with Concord and trained in front of all the crowd, our supporters, which was great. I think it was like 5,000 people at Concord just to watch us train. And then obviously you have that grand final breakfast, and there's a little bit of I think media trying to start a little bit of a tit for tat sort of between the players, because they were saying poor Rahihi at the time, they were asking about me and some of our forwards, they're going to dominate us and all this. So there was one thing I didn't want to do is get into a bit of a slanging match and give any sort of any reason for them to fire up. So I think we were smart enough as a team to keep quiet. So but the week itself, the week was great. I still remember it. I did my best to take it all in because it's so much happening. Everyone wants a piece of you, And I'm not just talking about media. I'm talking about I still live in the Campbelltown area, and at the time, and you just walk down the street and people want to just have a chat, and so they're excited. It's great. You walk around the local area and they've painted their lawns and their houses, and it's fantastic. It's a great week. But that's, like I said, times by about 100 in one day. Boom! That's how exciting and it was. That was the feeling.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, mate, I couldn't imagine, and you got those, like you said, those young, exciting guys coming through with your experienced heads like yourself. It was just the perfect mix at the time, wasn't it?
It was, mate. They played without fear, those guys. Like I said, you had your Farah, your Benjis, you had Chris Hynington, you had Dean Howlett-Tower, Liam Fulton, Bryce Gibbs. Those guys just finished playing SG Ball 2 years ago and won a grand final there. So for them, winning was just a natural thing. That was part of their DNA at that time. They were just winning and they were just having fun. They didn't care. They were just like, at that time, they were like me at being a 19, 20-year-old kid. They were just happy that they're playing first grade. Whereas the older kids, the older guys like myself, Toddy Payton, Mark O'Neill, Brett Hodson, who'd been there for a while, we had that, we were a bit more nervous and a bit more, I guess, not as carefree, but we were just a bit more, just making sure that we got the job done before we sort of got out of control. So, but it was a great mix. So, mate, they brought the enthusiasm and that rubbed off on us older guys because without that, we just didn't have it. So they didn't care. We played off what they played. We know how Benji and Farah and Princey combined. That was just that was us rubbing off them rubbing off on us as well. So it was great.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I mean, after the 06 season, you ended up going to Huddersfield, mate. What was the decision? What was the thought pattern of going over to Huddersfield? Did you think at the time that your career in the NRL was over?
Look, at the time, I probably didn't think it was. I thought I still had a lot to sort of offer. I didn't get a real good. I didn't want to play anywhere else for starters, so there was nowhere I wanted to go, and the club was sort of moving towards as they do, youth and new players coming through and looking towards the future. So there was a bit of that. So, and I didn't want to play anywhere else. I didn't really shop anywhere else, to be honest. So there was no sort of negotiations at any other NRL club, and that conversation came up pretty early with Huddersfield. I think it might have come up pretty early in the season in 2006. And it came up early now. I met with them when I was in when we played the World Club Challenge against Bradford. So I actually met with the coach, John Sharp at the time, and yeah, and then they just basically came from there. And they were keen to get me, and it took me probably a good 2 to 3 months to make a decision, because it was a big move for me. I'm a Cowantown boy. My wife was born and bred in the Cowantown Macarthur area, and we had 2 young kids. I was 3 and 1 at the time, and it's a big move, to go all the way across the other side of the world. So there was a lot to consider, but I thought, we made the decision, and to be honest, I wish I'd probably now. The only thing I regret is not going over there a year earlier. So 2006, I probably should have went, because I was mentally fatigued. Even though I was out there to play, I did my best to try to defend the title. I just think mentally, internally, without the back of my mind, I think I look at it now, I was probably just fatigued from so much emotion the year before winning, that I probably needed that change a year earlier than what I did do. But it was the right decision, and I don't regret it all going over. It's fantastic. They were a fantastic club.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's awesome, mate. I mean, and then you get your song back in 2009, 2010. You don't play many games, but you get that send off for your beloved Wests and the Balmain supporters, mate. How was that sort of feeling for you as well?
When I came back in 2009, 2010, that was, mate. Look, I wasn't even expecting to play. I came back to play Premier League with the West Magpies, and Sheensy was, he actually asked me when I first got there, because he asked me to be the strength conditioner for the under-20s team, or the NYC at the time. But then I remember him throwing a question to me saying, "Oh, would you play if I needed you?" And I said, "Of course I would." But he goes, "All right, stay fit and see how we go." And I was training with the NRL boys, and I was training with the NYC boys, and I was playing with the state cup team with the West Magpies. Just again, when you retire, you just want to get it out of your system. You don't sort of think you can still do it, but you just sort of think, okay, I'll just play a few more games and whatever. And I think it was round 7. Unfortunately, we got a few injuries in a row. I think Bryce Gibbs did something, Keith Galloway got injured, Todd Payton did something. So they were sort of, the front rows were falling and all around us. So she said, "Oh, mate, look, I want to use you. Can I use you for a few games until the boys come back?" And I said, "Of course you can." So it took us 2 games to get me registered. And then round 10, I think it was, around 11, I can't remember, one of those, I redid my debut, if you want to call it that, against the Broncos at Campbelltown Stadium, which was fantastic. Like, probably not as nervous as my first debut, but I'll tell you what, the nerves were there, and the lungs were blowing too, because then it reminded me how hard it was. And I was lucky enough to play the rest of the year. So and that's I was thankful for that. That got me another 10 games, whatever it was, 12 games. I can't remember what it was. So it was good. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, that would have been awesome, just to get that final goodbye, at the end of your professional career.
Well, 2010 was actually my final game, because, again, same thing happened 2010. So that was 2009. Yeah. I retired 3 times. So people think, so the same thing sort of happened in 2010. So 2010, mate, I didn't play to around 14 or 13, because, again, Sheensy said, stay fit and I might use you, whatever. And I think they were joking around, putting me on like a 50-cent contract or something like that, and just registered me. And then, unfortunately, during, I think it was around 13, 14, it was around that time, it was mid-year, Toddy Payton, Keith Galloway, Andrew Fafita, a couple of other front row, what was his name, Junior Moores got injured. They all got sort of injured and started falling, either they couldn't get back from the injuries, or they just weren't playing. And she said, "Mate, do you want to play?" And I said, well, "Of course I do." Well, I'm not going to say no. So, I got to polish the boots off, and round 14, 15, something like that, I played against Penrith at Campbelltown Stadium, and that was actually 10 times harder than the year before, because I hadn't done much training. Well, I had a little bit, but it wasn't too much during the year, and mate, that killed me. And then I played to around, I was a bit shattered, because I played to about round 23, round 22, and I tore my glute. And that's the year the boys made the semis and got beat by the Dragons to get into the grand final. So, and that was my 249th game. And Sheensy said, "If you can get fit for the grand final and we make it, I'll play." And I was like, "Yes." And unfortunately, we lost. They lost the semi-final. So, 2010 was my final sort of game. And I said, "That's it. No more. Can't do this anymore." I was 34. The legs were shaking. The knees were about to fall off. So I said, "No, I'm done and dusted." So I made sure Sheensy lost my number, and he's never called me again. So, yeah.
Well, you never know, mate. He's back at the club in
Well,
one more
I'm a bit worried now. I stay away from him, so yeah,
So,
I make sure I don't go into his office. So you never know what will come up in his mind.
Yeah, definitely. Just want to on a sort of more personal level now. You know, was there a low point in your life? You know, we were talking about before with your mother passing, but maybe even in your career, just a low point in your life, and just sort of how did you get through it? It might have been like some sort of depression or something that you might have gone through. I don't know.
Yeah, but probably the lowest I wouldn't say through my career. I was pretty lucky. Like I said, I had a good sort of support system. You know, I had a great wife who supported me and encouraged me to do whatever it took to sort of become that was my career. We knew the career only lasts for a certain time. So I had my wife was a great support system, and I had Steve Noyes, who was the CEO of the West Magpies early in the day, and he was someone who I always sort of, if I had something, an issue or something, I'd speak to him, or he would give me some really good advice. Probably as a teenager was probably my toughest challenge. I wasn't the best teenager in the world, and there's unfortunately, I don't have too many regrets, because I think you learn from your mistakes, but there are probably a few things that I wish I hadn't done, and I'm lucky enough that I learned from them. I'm not saying that I'm proud of them, but I'm definitely proud. But I think just as a teenager was where I regret, where I did a few things that I probably shouldn't have. And that was just the lack of support, I think, from other avenues. And even though I had those close mates and Kevin's mum as support, I just needed probably something else at the time to. And I was lucky. I consider myself very lucky. I was the guy on the fence that if I'd gone one way, life could have been much different to what it is now. So but as during my career now, mate, to be honest, I think it's because I had a lot of gratitude for what I was doing, and I didn't take it for granted. I think that's important. I think you got to sometimes step back and give yourself a bit of a pat on the back and say, mate, you're doing well. Look where you are. You're a professional sports person. You're getting paid to kick a ball around and bash people on the field. What more do you want? So I think I was, from where I became from a teenager and what I did as a teenager, and to where I was in my career and playing professional sports, traveling the world sort of thing, I had no reason to be, at a low point, if that makes sense. So, and I had a great family. I had 2 beautiful kids at the time. I had a beautiful wife and, a house and, things like that. So, look, and even when I retired, it wasn't. I know some guys struggle with that, and that's real. And I can understand that. I really do can understand that. All your life, you're in a system. You wake up in the morning, you put this, your training gear on, and you end up at Concord Oval, and you train, and you come home, and you eat, and you get up, and you put your training gear on, and that's 16 years of doing that. I don't have to worry about what to wear, what to eat, what to do. My timetable's set. I need to be a trainer at this time. I'll be finished at this time. And so for 16 years, my life's basically organised. And then suddenly after 16 years, someone says to me, okay, mate, you need to sort out what you're doing. You need to sort out your own timetable. And it's a little bit daunting. And some players struggle with it. And they're the ones that you need to make sure you put your arm around and say, look, mate, everything's going to be okay. There's people here to help you. So, but I consider myself one of the lucky ones, mate, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Do you have any advice for people that are going through like a depression state or a low point in their life? Mental health being a big thing these days, especially with the NRL. Do you have any advice for people going through some sort of stuff?
Yeah, I look, I've obviously got a lot of mates who probably, have gone through that. And the only advice I give, or I'm not saying the only, the best advice I give them is to make sure they try to talk. And I know that's I know everyone says that, try to talk, but when you're going through something like that, they're not thinking of that. They're thinking of the lowest point of there's no one that can help them, basically. So the best advice is, talk and ask for help, and and as a person who wants to help, you just got to be patient with them. It's not going to, just because you had a chat to them doesn't mean they're going to be okay. It takes a while, because that person needs to, it's not they don't want to be like that. They don't want to feel like that. It's just the way, unfortunately, it's just the way there's something's happening that's there. So for me, best advice is try to talk to somebody. Surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with familiar faces, people that you've either grown up with or you trust. Definitely someone who you can trust, and open up and try to find that person who understands you, I guess. So, and it might take one or two people, might take three people before you find someone who understands you and what you're going through, because not everyone goes through the same issue. Everyone's got their own battles, unfortunately. And try to open up and talk to people.
Yeah, that's beautiful, mate. Absolutely perfect advice, mate. Excuse me. With the Dolphins coming in as the 17th team, mate, what do you reckon the chances of Perth being the 18th team?
I hope so, because I love Perth, mate. I played 2 games against the Western Reds, so 96, 97, or 97, 98, one of those. And I loved it. I love traveling. I know it's a 10-hour flight, whatever it feels like. And it's only 5, I know that, but it feels like about 10. And I think, I'll be fantastic. I think it's good for the game. We're going to be covering a lot of area around Australia in terms of the national sports sort of thing. So I'd definitely support Perth, because when Western Reds were there, I thought it was great. I thought it was a fantastic idea. So, and they got the infrastructure there, they got the stadiums there, so why not? And I don't know what I don't obviously can't comment on the juniors and the local base of footy, but if that's strong, why not? Why not try to build it and get it stronger? And from there, mate, we're open to a lot of area to keep building teams. So I'm definitely for it. Yeah. So
cool. I know the senior level over here is struggling a bit with numbers.
Yep.
But the juniors, I know they're absolutely packed.
Yeah.
Nearly every club is just packed with juniors.
Yeah, that's great.
The women as well. So many the tag and the tackle. There's heaps of those.
Why not? And build it, and that's what we want. We want juniors because we want those guys to strive to play for. Let's say they were Western Reds again. So whatever it was, that's a good start. Why not? So but like I said, as long as the infrastructure there, the coaches are there, and the support's there, I think it'd be a great move. And like you said, the women league is just going gangbusters at the moment. We've got Tasha Gale and Harvey Norman here, the West Tigers, and mate, they're fantastic. We're hoping to put an NRL side in soon. So the women's sport, the women's rugby league is going great. So it will just get stronger over there as well. Yeah,
definitely, mate. Absolutely will be. Have you got any advice for kids, just with life in general, mate? Whether maybe not just in life, but in sports. Have you got any advice for these kids that are coming up that are probably watch this later on and might use your words as inspiration to get to that next level?
My own advice one of my advice, like I said, is you can give heaps of advice, but probably just enjoy what you're doing and stick to it. The best advice I've probably been given as well is, every training, and I talk about training, and every training session you do, you got to remember you can't get it back. So whatever you do at training, that it's done. So if you don't give your best at training, or you don't look after yourself, physically or diet wise or whatever it is that's going to get you to the next level, you can't. It's hard to get it back. You lose that day basically. So whatever you do, just make sure you try to give everything your best. But you enjoy yourself. Number one, you enjoy yourself, because if you don't enjoy it, it becomes a chore. It may be good for 1, 2, 3 years, but that's as far as it's going to go. You're not going to go that 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15-year career. You're not going to do it, unfortunately, because it's not enjoyable. You have to love it, and you got to appreciate it. And I think be very grateful for what you're doing, whatever it is you're doing, sport, business, school, whatever. Just be grateful that you've actually got the chance to actually do what you're doing. So that's probably advice I'd give.
No, that's beautiful, mate. Absolutely beautiful advice, mate. Mate, I've only got a couple of questions left for you, mate. I know,
that's all right.
Like I said, you're a busy man. Have you got any business interests these days, mate?
No business. Look, I do PTs. I train. I'm a PT, and that's probably closest to my business that I do. I work corporates for the West Tigers. I'm not doing any coaching this year. I know you mentioned before, but I'm not doing any coaching. I was doing some coaching with Brett Hodgson last year and the year before that. We're doing the state cup together. Brett Hodgson's gone over to he's a head coach at Hull FC now. He's moved on. He's
Oh, right.
chasing his coaching dream, and I'm in the corporate space and like an ambassador for the West Tigers as well. So mine's more about bringing business and sponsors and that to the club, and that's so important these days with everyone's trying to find that little inch. So every sort of dollar counts to every club. So that's my goal. But yeah, I do PT, and that's probably the closest I have to a business. But no real ambition to go out business wise or become a CEO of anything like that. Mate, that's too stressful. If I do that, I won't get to play golf as much as I do. So
That's the way.
yeah, I got to be smart. So I hope you don't put that on there. So my boss might listen to this and realise what I do. So yeah.
I think you'll be all right, mate.
Yeah.
Do you still have? Do you still do the Macquarie Field finding stuff? The what's the other one? Changing Lives program?
No, so that was a while ago, mate. So I know you sort of they keep putting that on. That happened probably about 3 or 4 years ago. We did a few things for a few years at Macquarie Fields I worked with the police officers there, and so did the club, and I was more of like trying to. Well, I was being like more of a mentor for some of the kids. It was great. It was like it went for about 2 or 3 years. Just one of those programs that it went for a while, but it ran its time, it ran its path, sort of thing. And but we're like the club's involved in a lot of community events. We do a lot of community programs. I think at one stage last year, I think we were close to running 60 programs. So our community team do, and that's the biggest difference with clubs these days. When I first started, there was a CEO, team manager, a general manager, recruitment coach, and your fitness coach, and that was it. That was everyone that ran the club. Now you've got a community department, you've got a membership department, you've got a corporate department, you've got a pathways department. You have 60 people working behind the scenes, and then you've got another 60, 70 working on the field. The staff, so like footy staff. So it's such a good thing for not just the club, but for the community, because we can focus on running these programs for all these kids and all these communities. So if anyone wants to see what we're doing, go to our website, go to the community section, and like I said, our community guys are doing a fantastic job. I think they're doing a presence drop off or something tomorrow. They wraps. I think what's today? Today's Monday, so Friday or Thursday, I think it was. They wrap presents for some kids, and they're going to drop them all off tomorrow or something like that. So,
that's awesome.
But like I said, there's so many in-school programs. There's junior league programs. There's grassroots programs. There's 1,000 of them that I get pushed and pulled to each one of them, and I do some where I can, and I play my part where I can. But there's like I said, we've got a great community team that look after that anyway. So
yeah, awesome work, mate. What do you think the Tigers' chances with Tim Sheens coming back? Obviously, Tigers obviously hold a huge part of your heart. With Tim Sheens coming in, and good signing, and Jackson Hastings coming in as well. Do you see him skyrocketing up the ladder a bit more, or do you see it sort of in a couple of years, getting up there?
Yeah, look, I think Sheensy understands, mate. We've seen Sheensy do his stuff. He's brought clubs from the ground up and turn them into successful teams. And I think he knows, and I think he's really mentioned it publicly that it will take a year or two before we even sort of start being real competitive. I think we'll be competitive next year, especially with Jackson Hastings coming in. I think that's going to add a little bit of flair to our game, a little bit more stability, and help Brooksy a fair bit. I know Brooksy's getting pumped a fair bit from media and left, right, and centre, but mate, I feel for Brooksy because he hasn't probably had the help that he needs or the last few years. So, mate, we're not. I wouldn't want to see Brooksy go anywhere because I know what he can do, and I know what he's capable of. And I think Jackson's going to, and obviously when Adam Dewey comes back from his knee injury, they're both going to be able to help him around the park. So I think next year we're going to be competitive, but I think exactly what Sheensy was saying publicly, that it's going to take 2 or 3 years before you see a real week in, week out competitive side, because we are a young team. You look at our team, we don't really have many old heads, apart from James Tarmale, Luciano. Who else would be in there? They're probably the ones that stand out in terms of the old heads in there. Other than that, everyone's after everyone. Dave Nafluma, who's probably the most experienced one there, is when I say that in terms of, I'm talking about the club. So he'll be. I think we're 3 years away, but it's exciting. We're excited because we know what we're capable of.
Yep.
It's just, unfortunately, it's a patience game and things like that. You know, I know people and supporters and members, and they all want instant success, and they're probably craving it because, to be honest, we haven't had it for 10 years. So, so I can understand the feeling, but yeah, we're definitely working towards something really big, and you know, I think next year will be a bit of a start.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know back when Mitchell Moses was at Tigers, him and Brooksy worked well together. So I think that flair with Jackson Hastings is going to work well with Brooksy. Takes a bit of pressure off him. You know, you've got that excitement machine at the back with Dane Laurie.
There's another one, Dane Laurie. Yeah, that's right.
You know, you got some experienced wingers. You got Kemba Marlowe on one wing and David Nofaluma on the other.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure who the hooker is at the moment, but yeah.
Well, you got Jacob Little. You got Jacob Little's there at the moment, and you got Jake Simpkins, who's a young up and coming player. Played a couple of games for us last year. But yeah, they're going to battle it out for next year, I'd say. So you know, that's and then obviously, look, you're right with Hastings. He's just a footy head. He loves footy. I think he's a probably bigger version of Mitchell Moses, where he knows his footy, and he was born to play footy. And just I think when you've got someone who's got a bit more flair, and then you've got someone who's probably a bit structured like Brooksy, it's a good combination. You know, we had Princey and Benji. Benji was he'd do whatever came to his head at the time, and Princey was a bit more structured, and it worked really well for us. And I think that's where we're sort of heading in our team at the moment.
Well, exactly, and I think once the Laurie and the hookers get more game time into them, and then those four combined, it'll be hard to stop the Tigers. They'll move rapidly up.
I agree. And like I said, we've got a pretty decent forward pack. You know, there's our forward pack. You know, they're Zay Musgrove, James Sarmau. We've got experience. We've got size. Alex 12. Luciano. We've got a size, and we just got to, like every team, you got to keep them on the park. You got to get them playing together for multiple games, and hopefully they do their job and allow the Brooksies and the Dane Lauries and the Hastings doing their job around that. So. But Sheensy's probably, go back to that sort of question, Sheensy's going to be great for the club. He's already shown, it's already showing around the place, the changes he's making and the confidence he's given players and staff and everyone. So, and he loves footy. Like I said, he can talk underwater about footy, mate. Don't get caught into next to the seat on a plane with him, because you won't stop talking about footy for about 2 hours. So.
I would love it. I would love it.
Yeah, he can talk. He loves it. And then, like I said, I go back to one thing I learned, mate, is because we had some great conversations, and you don't realise that you learn so much from him. So it's he's great for the club already. So.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, mate. Mate, that's all I've got for you. Like I said, I really appreciate your time. If you're ever over in Perth, mate, send me an email and we'll catch up and have a round of golf or something.
Too easy. You got me already, mate. I have to twist my arm there. So
that's it.
It's all good.
No, beautiful, mate. Thank you so much for having a chat, mate. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, buddy. See ya.
Thanks, mate.
Take it easy.
Bye.